Is it really a dog interruption if the dog interrupts before the video starts, or is it just a dog included in the video? Unclear. Hi, I'm Bjorn, movie archaeologist, and welcome back to the Temple of Movie Reviews. And today we're taking a look at a spooky artifact. This is the new, I think it was A24, horror movie, Talk to Me. And full honesty, I saw this movie a while ago, and I've just been busy and never sat down to actually make a review for it, which is a bad bit on my part, because this movie was really good. Again, I've seen a lot of really good movies lately. I think I tend to see movies that look like they'll be interesting, or maybe it's because I get screenings for movies that are interesting. Like, bad movies don't tend to offer out screenings, but it's been a while since I've seen a really bad movie, per se. And this movie is one of my favorites from the summer. There's a genre of horror that I really, really like, and I would call that genre creepy but no jump scares, and or unsettling horror, or an actual horror movie that isn't like a theme park ride where a monster occasionally goes boo and startles you. And that being said, Talk to Me is definitely not the boo sort of horror movie. It is a creepy, unsettling horror movie with a pretty poignant message that crawls into your skin. Basically the sort of thing that A24 has been putting out consistently lately, and the kind of movie I really like. If you're a horror aficionado, you like things like Heredity, or The Witch, or Lighthouse, maybe less so Lighthouse, but sort of in that same vein, or more recent non-A24 movies like Relic, another Australian horror movie. I literally went into this movie knowing nothing about it except that it was about a magic hand. I sat down and watched it, and then they started using Australian accents and saw that this was made by Film Australia. And unironically, I've seen so many good horror movies come out of Australia that I was just like, alright, this is probably going to be pretty good. And Australia delivers again. Good job, Australia. Keep it up. You're pulling America's slack right now. The premise of the movie is pretty straightforward. A girl goes to a party where a group of teens get her to shake hands with a plaster hand and then say, "Talk to me," which then allows them to speak to people who have died. The movie spirals out of control from there in a pretty interesting way. And I'm going to preface this movie by saying this is not necessarily a straight horror movie. The first 40 minutes of this movie are basically a horror comedy, a really good horror comedy. I was chuckling. I liked all the characters. It was very funny and well written. And I won't say how or why, but the movie pivots in a way I found extremely interesting and almost immediately tonally whiplashes into a completely different genre, into straight horror in a very interesting way that I think works extremely well. I had no complaints with the way the tone was laid out with this movie. In fact, I thought it was actually to the film's benefit. It got me to lower my guard pretty early on, because again, I knew nothing about this movie. And I think that is really impressive. I was very impressed with the sort of script for this movie on that front. All throughout the movie, it takes turns, twists, and risks that I find to be pretty interesting. I've seen ideas similar to this movie presented, but this is some of the better ways I've seen them. There's a lot of ambiguity in this movie, and I think that might be in service of the metaphor, but I never found that the metaphor overtook the movie's lore, although I maybe could have stood to see a bit more lore sort of weaved into the actual plot. If you see the movie, you'll kind of get what I'm getting at here. But the movie's message, which I personally interpreted to be relative to drug addiction, I found shine through and didn't detract. It reminded me a lot of The Babadook, which I've previously raved about being really good, in that it weaves a message into horror without overtaking the horror of the premise itself. I thought it was pretty good. I watched briefly an interview with the director, and at the end they did like a live Q&A thing with him. Them, I guess there was two of them, and it was interesting. They said some things that sort of made me feel like I interpreted the movie the way it was meant to be interpreted by them. And the fact that there is some level of interpretation in this movie, I'd say, is a good thing. It's nice to see movies that have an actual message cleverly woven into the film. It's fun that movies used to have that. Do you guys remember when movies used to have themes? Every kind of movie did. So yeah, this movie is very creepy. I'm going to briefly touch on spoilers, just one specific thing I want to gush about here. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, do yourself a favor and go see this one if you're into horror. This twist I'm going to talk about, or this ending I'm going to talk about here, is something you probably don't want to spoil for yourself. So do yourself a favor if you haven't seen the movie. Like and subscribe to the channel. Go watch something else. Doesn't even have to be my channel. And come back when you've seen the movie. All right, I've warned you. We're going into it. So the ending of this movie, the very last scene, like the last 3 minutes, is super fucking unsettling to me. I found it to be a very good ending to the movie while also being unbelievably eerie and creepy. The sequence of her seeing the light and the darkness she's become trapped in for who knows how long, going out to it and then finding herself on the other end of the shaking hand is a very, very unsettling and effective visual. And I think another thing I really like with the movie is the implication that, you know, time has passed and the hand is somewhere else. It's in a Spanish-speaking country and it's not where it was before. And that is a very effective, as I said, and very creepy idea, and I love it. I think it pulls the whole movie together. It makes you feel like this could happen to you, sort of thing, in the movie. Alright, spoilers over. I'm going to give Talk to Me a 9 out of 10. I really like this kind of horror movie. I think it's one of the more effective sort, you know. I think there's a level of eeriness and unsettlingness that sticks with you that only these sorts of horror movies really bring to the table. I want to see more horror like this and like Relic and less like Insidious the Red Door. Those who have seen it know what I'm talking about. So, yeah, keep it up, foreign filmmakers. You guys are doing the Lord's work that America can't in the horror genre. High five, guys. Alright, I've been the movie archaeologist, man, and I'm going deeper into the temple to hopefully find more good A24 horror movies. Tomorrow, when the review embargo drops, or I guess today, depending on when this uploads, I'll have Oppenheimer out around 12, and then Barbie the next day. So I'm out of here, guys. See you in the next one.